Have you ever heard of the man in the long black coat? This mysterious figure is said to appear at the side of the road, especially during foggy weather, sometimes standing perfectly still and occasionally motioning with his hand for oncoming cars to slow down or stop. Some say he's a lonely spirit searching for company, while others believe he warns unsuspecting drivers that danger lies ahead. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts below. And now let's move on to our story for today. In late October of 2003, a young woman named Rachel Morgan was driving home from a friend's birthday party through the quiet back roads of northern Oregon. It was a cold, rainy night, and a heavy fog had settled over the forest that lined the two-lane highway. Her cell phone battery was dead, but she wasn't worried. Home was only about 30 minutes away. Just before midnight, as she rounded a sharp bend in the road, Rachel saw something standing in the middle of the highway directly in front of her headlights. At first she thought it might be a deer, but as she drew closer, she realized it was a tall man in a long dark coat, his face hidden beneath the brim of an old hat. Startled, Rachel slammed on the brakes and slowed to a stop. As she sat there trying to make out the man's features in the dim light, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Then the man did something that made her blood run cold. He stood perfectly still, facing the trees, as if listening to something deep in the woods. When Rachel drove by, his head turned slowly toward her car, and for a brief second she swears his eyes reflected red in the beams of her headlights. Trying to shake the image from her mind, Rachel put her car back into gear and pressed on the gas pedal. She didn't want to confront the mysterious man, whatever his story. She figured it was best just to drive on. A few miles later, flashing lights appeared ahead. A sheriff's cruiser was blocking the road, and an officer waved her toward a gravel detour that led deeper into the forest. He told her a fallen tree was blocking the highway. Rachel nodded and turned onto the narrow logging trail, her tires crunching over the wet gravel. The path was unlit and winding, with dense woods pressing in on both sides. And as the trees closed overhead, Rachel felt a chill despite the warmth of her car. She tried to shake off the uneasiness growing inside her and focused on the road ahead. But then she noticed something that made her heart sink. Walking along the road in the distance was the same tall man in the long black coat. There was no flashlight, no sound of footsteps, just the dark figure moving steadily along the road. Panic surged through her as she pressed harder on the gas. But the trail ended abruptly at a locked metal gate. She threw the car into reverse and sped back the way she had come. When she reached the main highway, the sheriff's car and the supposed roadblock had completely vanished. The road was empty and silent. Finally reaching her house at 12:41 a.m. Only 22 minutes had passed since she first saw the figure, but to her it felt like hours. The next morning, Rachel called the local sheriff's office to ask about the detour. They told her there had been no patrol cars in that area overnight and no reports of a fallen tree. Later, neighbors mentioned an old story about a hunter who disappeared in those woods back in the 1940s. A man some claim still wanders the highway on foggy nights, warning travelers to turn back. To this day, Rachel never drives that route again. Even today, she keeps her curtains drawn after dark because every so often she still hears a slow, heavy knock on her back door, a sound that makes her wonder if the man from the logging trail ever truly went away. Now you may be wondering, is there any truth to the story? Well, similar stories have been circulating across America since the 1930s. Most famous version comes from the town of Brutus in northern Michigan. One foggy night in December of 1936, a local lumberjack named Bert Johnson was driving home when he encountered a lone figure standing on the side of the road. Despite the freezing cold, the man was wearing only a thin jacket and carrying no suitcase or luggage. As Bert approached, he offered the man a ride, but when he leaned in close to ask directions, the stranger smelled faintly of decay and his face was strangely white, almost corpse-like. Bert immediately became uneasy and floored it, speeding away from the hitchhiker. He never looked back, but every so often he heard what sounded like a scream echoing through the night. Soon after, rumors began spreading through the small town about a phantom hitchhiker who haunted the nearby logging trails, warning drivers to beware of the dangers up ahead. Supposedly, if someone accepts the hitchhiker's offer of a ride, they will surely die. Although there have been no confirmed sightings since World War II, locals still warn travelers about the ghost hitchhiker. And in 2015, a viral post on Reddit claimed that a driver had recently picked up a hitchhiker in the same woods where Bert Johnson had seen the stranger all those years ago. According to the poster, when the driver asked the man where he was headed, he replied simply, "I've been waiting for you," before disappearing into thin air. Another similar story comes from the remote Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota. Here, the legend tells of a Native American dressed in a long black coat who walks the lonely highways at night. According to tradition, the man is the spirit of a Lakota warrior who died in battle with the U.S. cavalry at the Little Bighorn River. Now he wanders the earth, seeking revenge against the soldiers who killed him, or perhaps he merely warns travelers to stay off the sacred land. But what about the story we heard today? Did a real-life man in the long black coat appear on a foggy road in Oregon? The answer is probably yes. Tall, dark figures standing silently at the edge of the road are commonly reported throughout rural America. Many are interdimensional beings, malevolent spirits, or even demons. Others are the ghosts of former travelers whose lives were cut short on lonely roads. Some legends say that if you honk your horn 3 times, the figure will step into the road and vanish. Others claim that if you offer the man a ride, he will accept and lead you astray. But perhaps these tales serve as more than just campfire stories. Maybe they are cautionary warnings from our subconscious minds urging us to be careful on dangerous roads. If you hear a knock on your door in the middle of the night, don't be surprised if the shadowy figure outside is not a living person. After all, death leaves no echo except an empty space beside the road. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe. Also, make sure to check out our new channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time.